something we can do? I don't know, it's up to you.
How are we doing, Beatstar players? This is Iroaster 5 here, coming at you one more time for one last Beatstar hard tier list. And it's time to discuss the following last songs of seasons 51 to 60 plus. You want to know why I say plus? Because we had such a lacking of hards this time between the last 10 seasons that I think we should actually go over the rest of the hards I actually missed over here. And these include the Beatstar originals and the new Journey ones that actually came in here, which, spoiler alerts, are Country Star ports. And of course, these are excluding Encores from being in a difficulty tier list. But what do I mean by that? Well, let's get into it and find out. So, let's get started. Now, I have explained the rules countless times already, but for those who still need to know, these will only be the Tour Pass hards from seasons 51 to 60, and the remaining Journey and exclusive hards. Scale will be from 1 star to 6 star, with 1 being the easiest and 6 being the hardest. Tier list will be based upon clearing and DPing status, and as well as overall difficulty of the pattern. Arrows will indicate whether a song is close to moving up or down a tier, and of course the alternate versions or the encores are not included for this difficulty tier list, but I will give them a different separate tier list later in this video. But what will the tier list be, you may ask? Well, you just gotta have to keep watching to find out. So with that said, let's get into the tier list. So we're at 16 songs left over here, and obviously it makes no sense to actually put it at a hard tier list, but with everything else being gone and Beatstar being gone soon, it makes sense to do it anyways while the game's on its last legs. So, as Ben Manson once said, presenting the standard hard tier list from seasons 51 to 60 plus. Starting off with the 1 star, it should be pretty obvious why this one's at the 1 star. Walt Up 69 number 2. This song is actually pretty straightforward. It's pretty repetitive over here, and only at the ending it actually gets a little hard. While that could actually justify it a bit for being a 2 star, you have to remember here that sometimes repetition doesn't always equal difficulty, and this is one of those examples. The first 4 stages are very easy over here and barely do anything to change up the pattern. Once you know the first pattern of the first stage, you know the rest of it going forward, so it lands in a high 1 because despite a spike at the end, it's not enough to save it. But what does save it is the 2 star one with Entry of the Gladiators. This one has a more justified spike in stage 4 over here, which does actually challenge more to pay attention. Now the first 3 stages and even the ending are pretty easy, but this one does more with the spike in the justifies a low 2. It's kind of the classical equivalent of Where's Your Head At. Yes, it looks easy on the surface, but there's some spike somewhere that does justify it a bit to being a low 2. But if you definitely know what you're doing, I can definitely see these people thinking it's a 1 star. And now the 3 stars. As usual, this is the highest tier, some regard for the variety, and we have a lot here to cover. So let's start out with Rides of Valkyries being a low 3 star. If I'm being honest here, if the whole entire last spam and the final stage wasn't there, this would obviously be a 2 star. But this is probably the worst of the classical hards in my opinion. Something about how the notes are actually charted and how the song goes just really doesn't match well with a rhythm game here. It just feels kind of forced in as a hard, just actually trying to put things together and just call it a day. But now we actually have some pretty good classical hards here. For Elise and Walter Swan Lake being really good 3-star hards. For Elise, it has really good fun with charting the piano, even having some really good rhythms that actually try to give something really fun, like the final stage. And Walter Swan Lake does really good job with the orchestrated music and even having some fun with the swipes. And here's where we have something interesting. This is where the rest of the Journey hards go. These are Country Star ports that were added to Beatstar last minute in June 2025. They are Reed's Southern Belle, Never Gonna Go Home, and Eye of a Hurricane. If you played Country Star before, these 3 over here are not that much harder than the previous versions. So basically, the charts overall here matches well into the 3-star lead. Now, Never Gonna Go Home here does on the surface look like another swing chart like what I got, but if you played Country Star before, it's definitely nothing that hard and won't actually make you scream that much when you actually see the jumps. It just takes a little time to get the timing down. And now we have here the first of the last Beatstar originals, Graveyard Groove. After careful consideration between a 3 or 4 star, I feel like it lands at a high 3. Yes, there's a lot of stairs here, and yes, there's some tricks over here by the final stage, but it's kind of like Revenger from season 42. It obviously has a lot of things going for it, but as long as you're careful and understand the reputation, you should be fine. And now it's the 4 stars. These ones are probably the most stretched out in terms of difficulty, and I'll explain in a minute why these ones land here in the 4 star. So let's take a look at the last of the classical hards with the lowest ones first. William Tell Overtune, the Thieving Magpie, and Symphony number 5 land as low 4-star hards. With these three over here, they definitely have a few gimmicks in here that does land itself barely at the 4 stars. For Symphony number 5 over here, the ending here really does challenge you to figure out here and going around the staircase of actually trying to keep yourself sturdy. The Thieving Magpie has itself a pretty interesting spike in the final stage here with the whole entire tapping, really making it a more entity of actually have a challenge of its own. And for Willy Tum Over Tomb, it has a whole entire gallop here, which does actually make it a step up. The reason why these ones at the 4 stars because unlike the 3 stars over here, they slightly do something different over here that does land itself in the 4. Some may call it cheating, but considering there's only 16 songs left, we have to make it for variety, I think it's a little fair to put them here. But what is a main 4-star is Carmen Overtone, aka the Five Nights at Freddy's theme. Ha 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 ha. Anyway, yeah, overall, I really like this one very much. It probably might be my favorite of the classical hards, in my opinion. Just the beginning actually trying to be reminiscent of the whole entire Carmen theme, and actually having the Five Nights at Freddy's theme actually being pretty funny is actually really much to actually land itself in a 4-star, and even having a really good challenging twist at the end. And of course, lastly of the Beatstar original hards is Golden Sands. This one definitely has a step up over Graveyard Grooves. The rhythm here and the charm matches perfectly here. It matches well with the whole entire stairs and tapping over here, and even the spikes at the end really do get you. It's a really fun chart overall, and one of the most underrated songs in the game. And now is the 5 stars, and honestly, I was surprised there was even one for the classical hards. Spring of the 4 Seasons lands at a 5-star, a low 5-star for that matter. On the surface, it looks like any other 4-star hard until you get to stage 4. Yes, it looks undercharted because of the whole entire triplets being undercharted for the using of the violin, and it is a really hard trick to get it down. You need to be perfectly fast and actually get everything perfectly, as it switch forwards when it goes on. And even then, the ending actually does require you to be careful with the concentration too, because it will knock you out badly. But now, here's the question. With all this said, did we finally get a 6-star this time? Did we finally have something that does actually feel within the hardest of the game? Well, if you said yes, then you are correct. We finally got a 6-star in the midst of the classical hard, and this one is Mandolin Concerto. This one here I feel like was a breath of fresh air in terms of difficulty. It was over 600 notes, actually does involve a gimmick here that does trick you up by the end, and it does require your 100% concentration. All of those together do actually put it at a 6-star. But is it one of the hardest hards in the game? I don't think so. It depends what you find actually more trickier. I feel like it's in the same realm of something like Hallowed Be Thy Name or Mix Jackson being a little too gimmicky to call it hard, so I might drop it a bit to the low 6, but definitely for a lot of players, it was actually very harder in terms of difficulty to DP. Whew. So, that's it. The standard hard tier list for seasons 51 to 60 plus. Overall, looks like the hards actually left a really good ranking to be desired. Most of it actually landed to the 3 and 4 star as per usual. And yes, we do get the usual easier or harder ones, but overall, I'm really glad they actually left the trace over here and actually try to give us a little bit of variety in terms of either the classicals, the country sports, or even the Beatstar originals. All of them, I will say, will be missed. But to answer my question from earlier, why didn't I include the alternative hards inside of the difficulty list? Well, in my opinion, it is very, very pointless to do, because the point of alternate charts in this game here is that most of them serve just to be a slightly harder version of their normal counterparts, or just a slightly easier version of their extreme counterparts, and all of them do vary in difficulty, so basically, it's not going to matter regardless how I rank them in difficulty. Like, if you say something like, oh, well, Clocks is harder than All the Small Things Hard, or, oh, Is This Love Hard is going to be the easiest, it doesn't really matter. It just depends here about your skill playset. It's not about what's easiest or hardest. So instead, I actually made a list over here based how much I really enjoy the charts, because I feel like these charts, in some regard, do deserve a bit of love. Yes, it was a lazy attempt for Nextby to actually try to pander out some charts before the game dies, but I think overall, the alternate charts seem to have a good amount of fun ones. Most of them do rely more about the ones that don't have deluxes over here, like Clocks, Crazy, Born to Be Wild, so on and so forth. But in the midst of them, we actually get some amazing ones that even do better than a deluxe, like No One Knows, Africa, or Eye of the Tiger. Now, they weren't all winners. We have the horrible Sandstorm hard and the abysmal N95 hard. But in the midst of all of them, you can definitely see by the rankings here, most of them do land in the great or good charts. Basically meaning that if I actually came back to those charts again, maybe I won't play it a lot, but I would replay them once in a while. So I think overall, I wouldn't go out to say I would remember most of them, but for a game that was singing this year, at least it gave us something to remember. Just depends on your definition of remember. And now, it's time for one last final look at the standard hard tier list, and I am amazed how many hards were actually in this game. By counting up even the alternates, there's over 400 hards in this game, and I must say I'm really glad all of them got their time to shine, despite some of them being really bad. And yes, we do actually get the easier ones from time to time that you can basically call them like 5 or 6 star normals and nobody would know the difference. But for the midst of all of them, they really do give us a unique, crazy, or pretty amazing challenge here that I really love revisiting a lot of them. Basically, these are charts that I'm going to remember a lot when Beatstar is gone soon. The extremes definitely I'm going to remember a lot, and some normals too, but the hards, most of them I'm definitely going to remember. They really do give a sense of really good challenges here when preparing you for the extremes, and you just want to break from the normals. So I'm really glad here that the hards were able to give us some really good time to actually get to know the more interesting factors of challenges in Beatstar. So with that being said, it's time to say goodbye to the hard difficulty. This is really sad on my part because obviously the hard difficulty was my favorite difficulty of all of Beatstar. Basically, while the extremes here had the most fun and the normals had the most in terms of quantity, the hards, in my opinion, had the most in terms of variety and unique charts. And amid the usual normals and the rare extremes, the hards always gave something fun and challenging. I'm going to remember most of the hards when the game is actually gone on October 31st. So it's with my pleasure to say goodbye hard difficulty. Thank you for giving us something we all love to look back on, whether good, bad, or insanely difficult. And now we reach the end. Once again, special thanks to the inspiration Ben Madsen for the original tier list. I really had a lot of fun ending off the whole entire tier list videos that he made a long time ago. And I'm really glad that since the game's ended, I've finally been able to close the book. And of course, thanks to Dan as well for giving me the inspiration to finish off this list. It's been really fun actually trying to do these old tier lists again. I'm really glad they actually ended off on a positive note. And a special thanks to the Beatstar Discord community for the Beatstar Handbook for remembering all, well, the 16 songs that came from seasons 51 to 60. And of course, thank you all so much for sticking around here. From all the videos I made for the Beatstar tier list, I was really happy you guys were satisfied with how much I really put the effort into finishing off the tier list. Thank you all so much from the bottom of my heart. With Beatstar ending here, I'm really going to miss making content like this here for you guys, but maybe I'll figure out a way to actually incorporate tier lists once in a while when the game's actually gone. I don't know what that'll be, but you'll just have to wait and find out. But again, thank you all so much for watching this video, and with that, hopefully I'll see you all in the next video. Bye bye.